मधुराक्षरम् आरुष्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वाल्मीकिर्मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं को नयाति पराङ्गतिम् पिबं सततं रामचरितामृतासागरम् अतृप्तस्तं मुनिं वन्दे प्राचेतसमकल्मषम् गोष्पदीकृतवारासम् असखीकृतराक्षसं रामायणमहामाला रत्नं वन्दे अनिलात्मजम् अंजनानंदनं वीरं जानकीशोकनाशनं कपीसमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम् आमिषीकृतमार्ताण्डं गोष्पदीकृतसागरं त्रिणीकृतदशग्रीवम् आञ्जनेयं नमाम्यहम् उल्लङ्घ्य सिन्धुसलिलसलीलं यशोकवह्निं जनकात्मजायाः आदाय तेनेव ददाह लङ्कां नमामि तं प्राञ्जलिराञ्जनेयम् आञ्जनेयमतिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि यः कर्णाञ्जलिसम्पुटैः हरः सम्यक् पिबत्यादरात् वाल्मीकिर्वदनारविन्दगलितं रामायणाख्यं मधुः जन्मव्याधिजराविपत्तिमरणैः अत्यन्तसोपद्रवं संसारसह विहाय गच्छति पुमान् विष्णोर्पदं शाश्वतं तदुपगतसमाससन्धियोगं सममधुरोपनतार्थवाक्यबद्धं रघुवरचरितं मुनिप्रणीतं दशशिरसश्च वदं दिशामयध्वं वाल्मीकिगिरिसम्भूतानां रामसागरगामिनि पुनातु भुवनं पुण्यात् रामायणं महानदी श्लोकसारसमाकीर्णं सर्गकल्लोलसङ्कुलं काण्डग्राह्यमहामीनं वन्दे रामायणार्णवम् वेदवेदे परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजं वेदः प्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना वैदेही सहितं सुरुद्रमुतले हैमे महामण्डपे मध्ये पुष्पकमासने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम् अग्रे वाच इति प्रभञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परं वाक्यान्तं भरतादिभिः परिवृतं रामं भजे श्यामलम् वामे भूमिसुता पुरश्च हनुमान् पाश्चात् सुमित्रास्तः शत्रुघ्नो भरतश्च पार्श्वदलयोः वायव्यादिकोणेषु च सुग्रीवश्च विभीषणश्च युवराट् तारासुतो जाम्बवान् मध्ये नीलसरोजकोमलरुचिं रामं भजे श्यामलम् माता रामो मत्पिता रामो भ्राता रामो मत्सखा राघवेशः सर्वस्वं मे रामचन्द्रो दयालुः नान्यदेवं नैव जाने न जाने साकेते शरदिन्दुकुन्दधवले सौदे महामण्डपे पर्यस्ता अगरधूपदीपललिते कर्पूरदीपोज्ज्वले सुग्रीवाङ्गदजाम्बवत् परिवृतं सौमित्रिणा सेवितं लीलामानुषविग्रहं रघुवरं रामं भजे श्यामलम् मेघश्यामं महाबाहुं स्थिरसत्त्वं दृढव्रतं कदा द्राक्षामहे रामं जगतः शोकनाशनं जयत्यतिबलो रामो लक्ष्मणश्च महाबलः राजा जयति सुग्रीवा राघवेण अभिपालितः दासोऽहं कौसलेन्द्रस्य रामस्य क्लिष्टकर्मणः हनुमान् शत्रुसैन्यानां निहन्तां मारुतात्मजः न रावणसहस्रं मे युद्धे प्रतिफलं भवेत् शिलाविस्तु प्रहर्तारपादपैश्च सहस्रशः अर्धयित्वां पुरीं लङ्काम् अभिवाद्यश्च मैथिलीं समृद्धार्दो गमिष्यामि विशतां सर्वराक्षसां धर्मात्मा सत्यसन्धश्च रामो दाशरथिर्यदि पौरुषे च अप्रतिद्वन्द्वशरयेन जहि रावणीम् आपदमपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवगौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे तपस्वाध्याय निरतां तपस्विं वाक्पीताम्बरं नारद परिपप्रच्छ वाल्मीकि मुनिपुंगवम् ओम रामाय नमः हरे कृष्ण. So we'll continue with our Ramayana Harikatha. So last week we have seen how Ramachandra arrived into Mithila. We will repeat one more time the breaking of the bow as a part of Sita Rama Kalyanam episode. And also we see so many newcomers. One has to be really fortunate to hear the story of Sita Rama Kalyanam, because the Lord took many incarnations on this planet, many thousands of incarnations, of which 10 are very prominent. Matsya Avatara, Kurma Avatara, Varaha Avatara, Vamana Avatara, Narasimha Avatara, Parashurama Avatara, Rama, Krishna, and Balarama. I think he came onto this planet many times, and he got married too. In Vamana Avatara he might not, but there are many marriages, like Krishna got married, and Balarama got married, and Parashurama, I don't know. So, but out of all these marriages, only one marriage was documented really in detail, and that was Rama Avtara. And this is done in such a way, na bhuto na bhavishyati. And even now, people follow the same traditions that Rama and Sita has established on that day and time. So Vishwamitra arrived into Ayodhya at what time? When Dasaratha was thinking about the marriage of Rama and Lakshmana. He was assembled in his court with all his ministers and friends, and he told, my children now are at a good ripe age. I want to get them married. So what should I do? So saying, he was discussing with his ministers. At that point, Vishwamitra arrived at a very ripe point. And then he came and asked, can I take Rama and Lakshmana with me? Because I am conducting a yajna, and Maricha and Subahu, two demons, they are coming on the completion of my ritual. When the ritual is about to complete, they are coming and destroying it. I need your sons to protect my yaga. And then Dasaratha sent his sons along with Vishwamitra. Then Rama killed Tataka, a Rakshasi, a Yakshini. If the first Rakshasa that Rama killed was a female, a lot of people have trouble understanding this. But Ramachandra inquired Vishwamitra. He restrained himself not to kill Tataka for a long time. But Vishwamitra said, he gave some examples that at this time, Indra killed a woman. At this time, Vishnu killed another woman. So it is appropriate if the woman, if she is a demon, and if she is a trouble, then you can kill her. It's not a problem. Then Ramachandra agreed, and then only he killed Tataka. Vishwamitra says, enough of your compassion, now please kill her. Then only Ramachandra killed Tataka. He was not even 16 years old at that time. Dasaratha says, Una Shodasha Varsho me Ramo Rajiva Lochane. Even at that time, Rama had this ability to discriminate between what is right and what is not. And he listened to his guru because it was the order of his father to listen to Vishwamitra. Whatever he says, listen to Vishwamitra. So that's why he killed Tataka. And later on he killed Maricha and Subahu. And then the sages took him to Mithila. He arrived into Mithila. And the legend of Vishwamitra has been described here. They tell all the Satananda, the son of Gautama and Ahalya, he details the story of Vishwamitra. And after the completion of it, Janaka requests them to come the next day to his court. So Ramachandra, Lakshmana and Vishwamitra arrive into Janaka's court the next day. Then Janaka comes forward. Then Vishwamitra asks him that my children, Rama and Lakshmana, they want to see the bow. Can you please show the bow to them? Last time Mataji was asking the question that was it not a Swayamvara? I know that you might have seen the movies that it was a big Swayamvara and then Rama also comes in and tries to lift it. No, it doesn't happen that way in Ramayana. Already the kings have come to Mithila, they have tried to lift the bow, they failed, and then they went back, they formed into a group, and then they came back and attacked Janaka because they thought Janaka was insulting the Kshatriya race by not giving Sita to any Kshatriya, and nobody was able to lift that bow and he was insulting them. So they attacked Janaka. Then Janaka fought with them for 1 year. And when the rations were running out, when the palace was deprived of foodstuff, then Janaka prayed to the demigods to send help. Then the demigods sent the fourfold armies, and then with the fourfold army, he defeated all the kings and vanquished them. And that's how he was protecting Sita in the great bow of Shiva. And today, Ramachandra came. Now there is no Swayamvara. Actually, there was a yaga going on in Mithila. They were doing a big yajna. A yajna means it's a big enterprise. It's like a huge conference. A lot of sages come there and then they pour in and then they do the yajna there. So many ritvaks, scholars and sacrificial paraphernalia, so many things. huge sheds, for different kinds of purposes, and shelters for visitors, Atidhi Grihas and things like that. It was a huge enterprise conducting a yajna. And such a yajna was going on in Mithila, and Rama, Lakshmana and Shatrughna, Vishwamitra arrived at that point. And now Vishwamitra asked to fetch the bow one more time so that Rama, Lakshmana can see it. He said, only to see it. I want to show my children the great bow of Shiva, because he taught them all the canon of missile sciences, which is, it has so many astras we described in the previous weeks. So all these astras Vishwamitra gave to Rama and Lakshmana. Now he wanted to show them it's like a educational tool. You take your children, you teach them something about a nuclear reactor or whatever, and then you take them to the nuclear reactor and then ask the chief scientist over there, can you take us to that department and show us this, show us this. Like that, Vishwamitra also, his purpose, his intentions, he knows what to do. But here for children, in order for them to make them excited, to show them what a divine bow, what a great bow looks like, which is crafted by Vishwakarma himself. Vishwakarma is a celestial architect who carves the weapons, for the demigods and even for Vishnu and Shiva. So he says, my children are excited to see the bow, can you fetch it? So Janaka promptly ordered his ministers, go and fetch the bow. And at the same time he tells Vishwamitra the story of the bow. This bow has been given to one of our ancestors called Devarata. During the time of Dakshayajna, this bow was used by Shiva, and then he took the bow, and because oblations were not offered to Shiva in that yajna, he became furious and he took the bow and he was against all the demigods and he was about to annihilate them. Then they came down to their knees and pleaded Lord Shiva to cast off his anger, and Shiva did so. And at the same time he gave the bow to the demigods to protect it. And the demigods took the bow and then gave it to Devarata as a trust. So you can, it's like they did not give it to Devarata, but he can keep it as a trust. It's just like a banker. You keep some of your valuable things in the bank. It doesn't belong to the banker. You can take it whenever you want, but it's like a ceremonial trust. Like that, he gave it to Devarata, and then Devarata used to protect the bow, and like that, it has been passed on to Janaka. We will detail the lineage of Janaka also. Who is this Devarata? In this today itself. So that bow has been passed on to me, and this bow, the kings could not move it. I will let Rama and Lakshmana also try it for one more time, and if Rama lifts the bow and strings it, I will give my daughter Sita, whom I have declared as Viryasulka. That means one who has to be won by bravery, not by any other thing, but by bravery. So that Sita, I will give it to Ramachandra, if he has done it. So then Vishwamitra did not take any challenges or did not say, okay, my student will do it. He said, no, first you bring the bow, let us see it. Then the ministers ordered 5,000 men to bring the bow. 5,000 strong, able, tall men. They pulled the 8-wheeled cart from inside of the palace chambers into the main court with all their might and strength, and they were sweating. And 5,000 bulls and 5,000 strong men pulled the cart, 8-wheeled cart. It should have been a big cart. It has to hold that weight of the bow of Shiva, right? 5,000 men are pulling it. It has been kept in an iron casket. So the casket was made of iron, and in that the bow was kept, and it was on the top of a cart, which could be big. When I try to imagine it, I try to imagine it as a bigger cart, so that it will have steps, so that Rama would climb it and then look at the bow. So they built like a huge temple chariot. They brought that chariot, that cart into the hall, pulling it. All the 5,000 men pulled it, and when they brought it there, Vishwamitra looked at the bow and looked at Ramachandra, and Ramachandra also looked at Vishwamitra. Then Vishwamitra told, Vatsarama Dhanu Pasyat, means please look at the bow. Then Ramachandra took the permission of Vishwamitra. He went to the casket. He opened the lid of the casket, and then he saw And then he told to Vishwamitra, Idam dhanurvaram brahman samspushyami iha. That means I want to touch this bow. Rama told to Vishwamitra. And then I want to try to lift it and then string it and thereafter even take an aim with it if possible. Then both Vishwamitra and Janaka in chorus they said, alright, please do so. Both of them at the same time they said, please do it. Then when Rama looked at the bow, it was a golden bow, it was like a big serpent resting in the casket. Then Rama, and when Vishwamitra and Janaka told like that, he playfully caught the middle, the grip of, the center grip of the bow. He playfully caught that. And when thousands of men were looking at it, Rama lifted it as easily as a garland. So Rama lifted it like a garland and then put it down. And then he strung the bow. And then he pulled the string with such irresistible force up to his ear that the bow snapped and broke at the center with a clap of thunder. And with that sound, everybody in the court was unconscious. It was a deafening sound. It was a huge sound. And there's one Telugu poet who wrote Ramayana Kalpavruksha in Telugu. And the words that he used to describe how this bow broke all the words, nobody understood those words. Even the great scholars in Telugu also were not able to understand these words. Then they asked him, what are these words? Where did you get these words? We are not able to understand. Why did you describe it this way? I tried to listen to that verse like several times, but I couldn't get it. It was so difficult. Those words are so difficult. And he got Jnanapita award also in Viswanatha Satyanarayana. Then he said, it's such a great bow, when it breaks, only this kind of word should be used. No other words can describe it. So that's what he explained. And it took him 30 years to write that Ramayana Kalpavruksha. He was such a great scholar that he wrote big epics in 3 days. Like he used to, they say that he used to smoke and play cards and all that. He was not a meat eater, but he was a devotee. But he has some bad habits too. But he used to dictate these verses and then somebody used to copy them. Like other great scholars in that fraternity, they used to do some apprentice service for him. So they recorded all these verses for him and then they wrote these huge epics. But for Ramayana, it took him 30 years to write the epic. And somebody asked him, why did it take 30 years for you to write Ramayana, while other epics that you have to create by yourself took only 3 days or a week at most? Then he replied, if I had written it, I would have written it in a week, but Rama wrote it, so he took 30 years. It was not arrogance, but it was devotion. He's saying, he's attributing his great work to Ramachandra. He said, Rama did it, that's why it took 30 years for him. I did not do it. So this is the greatness of Ramayana. So when that bow broke, everybody felt unconscious. It was a deafening sound. And then Janaka spoke. All my troubles are lifted. When Rama lifted the bow, all my troubles are also lifted along with the bow. Now I am so happy that I can give my daughter to Ramachandra. At this point, actually Ramachandra readily did not agree and then take Sita's hands. Sita explains this in Vanavasa, in Aranyakanda, when she visits Atri Maharshi's ashrama to Anasuya. She details the entire marriage one more time. There she uses beautiful verses. She says that the bow of Shiva was not even lifted, by the kings. Even in their dreams, they could not move it. It was so heavy. And the other thing that she says is, when my father offered me to Ramachandra, he did not immediately take me. But he said, my father Dasaratha has to come and accept this proposal, then only I would marry Ramachandra. This is what she said. This is what Ramachandra told. So that was the greatness of Lord Ramachandra. So he said, my father has to come and agree to this, then only I will marry Sita. He was such a Pitruvakya Paripalana Daksha. That was his first dharma. So when Janaka offered Sita to Ramachandra, and then they fixed the marriage ceremony on a Uttara Falguni day, and Dasaratha, Janaka told Vishwamitra that I would summon my ministers to go to Ayodhya and fetch Dasaratha and his retinue to bring them here to Ayodhya, and thereafter we will conduct the wedding celebrations. And the Midhila immediately, it got so ecstatic and alacritic, and then they started to decorate Midhila, which was Sita's city. It's Janakpur, now it's in Nepal, somewhere around Nepal, the place is located. So, and then the ministers were summoned and they were asked to go to Ayodhya to fetch Dasaratha. They took a 3-day route to go to Ayodhya with galloping horses. It took 3 days for them to reach Ayodhya. Day and night they spent, they ran very swiftly and they went to Ayodhya. And then when they reached Dasaratha's palace, they asked permission to enter the court. The king of Ikshvaku, the present king of Ikshvaku, who is Dasaratha, was the king to the entire world. The entire planet was ruled by the Ikshvakus at that time. So Dasaratha, to get an audience of Dasaratha, it's not an easy task. So when the messengers of Midhila said, we have been sent from Janaka, the city of Midhila, to talk to Dasaratha, please let us in. They went and told to Dasaratha. Dasaratha had a special affection for Janaka because he was a Rajarshi. He is not just a king, he is a saintly king. He is one of the Mahajanas. There are 12 Mahajanas who are famous and considered to be the greatest among all the devotees. And those 12 Mahajanas are the 4 Kumaras of Brahma, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat, Sanatana. 4 Kumaras, they are considered to be as Mahajanas, they are treated as one Mahajana. Bhishma was another Mahajana. Janaka is another Mahajana. Prahalada was another Mahajana. Who else, somebody else? Bali was a Mahajana. Narada is a Mahajana. Like that they had 12 Mahajanas. So, one of the Mahajana was Janaka. He was so great, he is a Rajarshi. So Dasaratha knew this and he was happy that he received some news from Janaka, and he led the messengers in. And the messengers came into the court of Dasaratha. They saw Dasaratha as if he was Indra himself, sitting on the throne, and he was conversing with his ministers, with his demigods. So Dasaratha was so radiant. They say that Dasaratha looked exactly like Rama. Like Rama resembled exactly like Dasaratha. He was so beautiful. He was so handsome. So when he saw Rama, he thought, I myself am walking outside. He was so attached to Rama. And even Ramachandra resembled Dasaratha. They say, Putrau Dasarathasyastau, Bhratarau Ramalakshmanau. And then when the messengers came to Dasaratha, they told Dasaratha, my dear Dasaratha, your children are well and safe with Vishwamitra, under the guidance of Vishwamitra. First they gave the good news. Immediately they did not go and say, your sons broke the bow. Janaka could think, Dasaratha would be worried, oh my God, what's this? So they said, your sons are safe, well and safe, under the guidance of Vishwamitra, and now they are in Midhila. That's why they told first Vishwamitra, so that Dasaratha won't be worried, why are my children in Midhila? What are they doing there? So now he was pacified. First they gave the good news, and then they told them that, our king Janaka, that he has declared Sita, his beautiful daughter, as Viryasulka, one who has to be won by bravery. And you know that no king on this planet was able to lift that great bow of Shiva. You know that also. And that bow has been broken by your valorous Rama, your son Ramachandra. And he took the hand of Sita. He is the one, the Prince Charming, who has won the hand of Sita. If it was, nobody told in that court that I hope Janaka ensured the bow. Nobody did that. But when they conveyed the message to Dasaratha, he was so happy, he was so delighted that my son, he's so glorious and he's so strong that he broke the bow of Shiva. And he discussed with his ministers, let the arrangements be made. And he told to the messengers that we will start tomorrow. By tomorrow morning, we will start our journey towards Midhila. Tonight, we will rest here. You take rest here. And the messengers also rested in Ayodhya. How happy they might be looking at the stars in that night and thinking of the wonderful things that are going to happen in the next coming few days how happy the messenger should be, how happy the people of Ayodhya should be, and how happy the people of Mithila should be to be waiting in order to receive Dasaratha and his retinue. Then, the next day, Dasaratha called Sumantra and said, Tato Ratriyam Vyatitayam Sa Upadhyayaha Sa Bandavaha Raja Dasaratho Hrishta Sumantramidam Abravit. That night, after the elapsing of that night, Dasaratha called Sumantra and with Sabandavaha Sa Upadhyayaha, along with his teachers and bandhus, that means all the relatives, wives, everybody. And he ordered that let all the exchequers and the treasury men be ready with all the money and gems, precious stones and all the valuable things to meet unexpected expenses on the way. Get them ready. This is all written in Valmiki Ramayana. I'm not making anything up. So this is such a detail. And he also says, let the fourfold army be ready and move towards Mithila from wherever they are stationed. If they are north towards Ayodhya, if they are towards Mithila, let them start from there itself. If they are in Ayodhya, let them start along with me. If they are behind me, let them start from that point. Like that he ordered. And he took all the retinue along with him. And he ordered his religious priests, Suyagnya, Jabali, Kashyapa, Katyayana, Markandeyu, and Vasishta, Vamadeva, all the priests to go first, to be first in the line. So they travelled in the forefront of that retinue. So they travelled towards Mithila, and behind them, Dasaratha, along with his wife and with all his ministers, he started to travel along with Sumantra, Drishti, Jayanta, Vijaya, Rashtravardhana, Akopa, Dharmapala and Sumantra. All these are ministers of Dasaratha. All these people they have followed, and behind him the fourfold army came. The fourfold army in the sense, one on the chariots, one on the elephants, one on the horses, and the foot soldiers, cavalry. The cavalry is the horses, and the foot soldiers. That's the fourfold army. So they all travelled towards Mithila. And when they went to Mithila, they took a 4-day route. It takes obviously 4 days, for such a big retinue to travel. Somebody had asked me last year that, how come the horses, when the messengers came in horses, which are just, so fast as any car, right, nowadays, it took only for them 3 days to travel to Mithila, but how come Dasaratha traveled in 4 days, without... See, it could be the messengers took a route where there are no dacoits, no thieves, no troubles, no rakshasas, no huge animals. So that could be a longer way. Whereas Dasaratha took a freeway, which is, if you are traveling with fourfold army and a retinue, you don't have to be afraid of anything. That's a freeway. So that could be faster. And also for messengers to enter into the kingdom of Kosala, which is Dasaratha's kingdom, they might have to stop at so many locations. They also have visas and things like that during those days, if you are aware or not. Even the ancient kingdoms of India, they had passport and visas. You know that, right? Even during the time of Chanakya, they had to send their, give their patra, and then they have to go, get it approved, then only they will allow them in. So like that, so many things could be there. That's why they got delayed. So the messengers, it took them 3 days to visit Mithila, whereas for Dasaratha, he is the king of the planet, so he can go anywhere he wants, in any time he wants. So it took only 4 days for him to get to Mithila. So they arrived at Mithila within 4 days. And Janaka, along with his people, he went forward and then he greeted them on the way itself. It's a tradition even nowadays, right? And people, come from you go to railway station and then meet them, you receive them, you bring them back. So like that, Dasaratha, these are all the traditions that has been established in Ramayana, which are followed nowadays. So Janaka went and received all of them, and then he welcomed into Mithila. And Janaka told to Dasaratha that, please guide us what to do for this wedding ceremony. Then Dasaratha replied, saying that recipiency rests in the restitutor. A gift betokens the giver's bounty. So says a poet. That whatever you are the giver, I am the taker. So whatever I can take is in the boundaries of you. Whatever you are going to give, that is what I am going to take. So you please order us. You are Rajarshi. You are the greatest saintly king on this planet. So whatever you say, we will do. So it was not like the girl's parents are like servants and the boy's parents are like, it's not like that in those days. Our culture was such a magnificent and glorious culture. Of course, it has been, what do you call it? It came down over the period of years because of false interpretation. That's why they say, Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupa Brahmaye Vibheti Alpasutad Vedo Mamayam Praharishyati. That one who can interpret the Vedas should read Ramayana and Mahabharata first, the epics, Itihasa Puranas. Then only he will know what is tradition, what is culture. Then only he can interpret any other scriptural text. So that's what Vedas declare. So Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupa Brahmaye. So we have to read Itihasa Puranas. That's what we are doing now, Ramayana. So Janaka received them and he said, please give us guidance. And Dasaratha said, no, you do whatever you want, we will just follow you. And then he welcomed them and he promptly guided them to the visitors' palace. Now also they have this Vididi Gruha, Atidi Gruha, during the time of marriage when the boys, relatives and they all arrive in a place, they give them a temporary accommodation, right? A visitor's place where they stay, and then from there they come to the marriage place, wherever it is. So this is all comes from Ramayana only. So Dasaratha and all his retinue were given a visitor's palace, which could be far better than Janaka's palace himself, we don't know. So, and then Dasaratha approached that palace, they all resided there, and Vishwamitra along with his students, Rama and Lakshmana, came to that palace, and the brothers, all the 4 brothers united. Bharata and Shatrughna were also brought to that to Mithila. They all united there. That night they stayed in that visitor's palace. But Vishwamitra went back and he stayed with Janaka. So the next morning, again they all arrived. Even that night, Janaka slept with his hand on his chest, because now all his worries are gone, right? If you have a girl, so many worries will be there that, when will I get her married and things like that. So even Janaka, for a long time, he was worried. But now, all his worries are gone. So he slept with a hand on his chest. Even that was recorded by Valmiki. The point of saying all this is how beautifully Valmiki has documented what was happening at that time. So when he slept, the next day morning they all got up and they came together again. Before going to the visitor's palace, Janaka, he called his minister, Satananda, his religious priest, Satananda, and asked him to go to Shankasya, where his brother Kushatwaja is staying. Kushatwaja is Janaka's brother, so he was ruling Sankasya Nagara. I will tell you the story behind that also. So he said, go and fetch my brother, who is as much, who rightfully deserves the fruit of this sacrifice, this yajna. Please call my brother Kushatwaja. So then Satananda called one of his ministers and asked him to go to Sankasya Nagara, which is surrounded by a river called Ikshumati as a natural moat. A moat is one like a artificially dug canal around a fort to protect from the enemies. So this Ikshumati river protects the Sankasya Nagara as a natural moat, and tridents are placed around the palace, like huge logs that are sharpened like a needle point, so that when enemy forces rush in, they get hit by those tridents and then they get destroyed. So that Sankasya Nagara is full of tridents around the palace, and it is protected by Ikshumati river around it. So please go to that Sankasya Nagara and call my brother Kushatwaja. So the minister went, he proclaimed what has happened, he declared what has happened in Mithila, and he passed on the good news. And Kushatwaja was delighted, and he immediately came to Janaka's palace. I think Sankasya Nagara should be very close to Mithila, just a few miles away, because the ministers, let us assume that they woke up at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning in those days and offer their morning rituals, and then he calls his ministers and tell him to invite his brother So and then the guards, they go to Kushathwaja's palace and then they bring him. So that could be, within a short time, like within 2 or 3 hours again he was there in the palace. And Janaka embraced his brother and told the good news that, our daughters are getting married, because he foresaw even the daughters of Kushathwaja are also going to get married at the same time. So he said, our daughters are getting married, so let's prepare for the ceremony. And Kushathwaja was also happy, and they all went to the palace of Dasaratha, visitor's palace. And there they took permission first from Dasaratha. Dasaratha ordered, no, what is the need for permission? Please come in. And then they came, and then they were all seated. At that time, they decided the date for the marriage, like the nakshatra for the marriage. They said, let's get Sita and Rama married on Uttara Falguni nakshatra. Today is Magha, tomorrow is Pubba nakshatra, which is Purva Falguni. The next day is Uttara Falguni. On that day, let's get Sita and Rama married. And also, I give my daughter Urmila to Lakshmana. Janaka said that. Then Vishwamitra intervened and said, my dear Janaka, you have a brother Kushathwaja and he has 2 more daughters. You Ikshvakus and the Videhas, you both are the most prominent kings on this planet right now. So it is good to make a marriage 4-fold alliance, for all your 4 daughters to the 4 sons of Dasaratha. And all these 4 sons, they are very well qualified and they are too great. He did not talk about the qualities of the girls. He only talks about, he was trying to qualify Rama and his brothers to get the hands of the daughters of Janaka and Kushathwaja. He said, my students are very famous, and so as the sons of Dasaratha, they are very famous, so they deserve all the children of you. So you please give the other 2 daughters of Kushathwaja also to Bharata and Shatrugna. Can anybody name the daughters of Kushathwaja? Yeah, Mandavi Sutakirti. Very nice. At least last time nobody was there in our discourse to tell at least those names. Yeah, Mandavi and Sutakirti. Rama married Sita, Lakshmana Urmila, Bharata marries Mandavi, and Shatrugna marries Sutakirti. So if now you can tell your children proudly, we know Ramayana well. Yeah. So like that, they all got, the alliance was fixed. Vishwamitra so far was on the boys' side, right? He brought Rama and Lakshmana to Midila, but now he severs his relationship with them, and now he is on the Janaka's side. Because they have Vasishtha, a Brahmarshi on their side, so there has to be a Brahmarshi on this side as well, so that the scales are balanced. And then Dasaratha asks permission from Vishwamitra that my lineage has to be detailed now. Our priest Vasishtha will tell about our kings, our lineage. It was customary at that time to talk about the details of your lineage, and then the girl's father also details his lineage, and then they will both know about both families. That was customary at that time. So when Vishwamitra gave his permission with a nod, this also was recorded by Valmiki just like that. Vishwamitra only nodded, he did not give verbal permission. After Vishwamitra nodded his head, Dasaratha kept quiet from that point forward, and Vasishtha spoke. He said, there once was Avyakta Brahman, who is Vishnu himself. It's not an impersonal Ramayana. Some people have interpreted it as Avyakta means he's not a person, but Ramayana is full of a personal God. There is no room for impersonalism in Ramayana. So we treat God as a person. He's a person. Even Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says, and Krishna shows the Vishwarupa, Arjuna tells to Krishna, asks him, requests him, my dear Lord, don't show us this universal form. I am too bewildered, frightened by this form. Please get back to your 2-handed form, which is your human form. I like that form. Then Krishna says, you think that as a human form, but Sudurdarsham idam rupam drishtavan yasyan mama devapi asya rupasya nityam darshana kamshinaha. So he says, this form, which is 2-handed human form, is impossible for even the demigods to see it. Everybody in this universe is trying to see this form. So the 2-handed form is the most important form. So there are only 2-handed Megasyama forms, which are Rama and Krishna. So that's why the Supreme Absolute Lord Lord Swam is, it's in the form of Rama or Krishna. So that's why, we pray to those, and then establish them as our deities. Just like the all-pervading Supreme Brahman, just like the milk of a cow all-pervades its body, but is only available from the udder, similarly the all-pervading Supreme Brahman is accessible only through the deity, two-handed form. So we worship him like that. So, that Ramachandra, Avyakta Brahman, Vishnu, from him came Brahma. From that Brahma had a son named Marichi. Marichi had Kashyapa, Prajapati as his son. And Kashypa's son was Vivaswan. Vivaswan had Manu. Manu had Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku was the first one who ruled Ayodhya, first king. Manu built the city of Ayodhya, but Ikshvaku was the one who ruled it. Ikshvaku had a son called Kukshi. Kukshi had a son called Vikukshi. Vikukshi's son was Bana. Then I will just continue the lineage. Bana, Anaranya, Prithu, Trishanku, Dundumara, Yavanashva, Mandhata. Mandhata had a son called Susandhi. Susandhi had two sons, Dhruvasandhi and Prasenajit. And Susandhi had, Dhruvasandhi had Bharata, Asita, Sagara, Asamanjasa, Anshuman, Dilipa, Bhagirada, Kakutsata, Raghu, Pravruddha, who is also called Kalmashapada, Shankanu, Sudarshana, Sigragu, Marugu, Agnivarna, Prashishruta, Nahusha, Yayati, Nabhaga, Aja, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna. This is the lineage of Ikshvaku. So Vasishtha explained the lineage to Janaka. I am glad he did, otherwise we would not know about the ancestors of Ramachandra. If I asked, who is your father, you might name him. Who is your grandfather, you might name him. Who is your great-grandfather, you might name him. But who is your great-great-grandfather, you don't know, right? I only know up to four, my father, my grandfather, and great-grandfather. That's it, I don't know who was before. So that, and so is the case with many of you, right? So, some people might ask, what is this history? It is not detailed by the Western historians. Where are all these kings come from? We don't have any proofs. No, we do have proofs. The Puranas detail what has happened beyond 600 BC. Up to, the history of India was documented only from 600 BC. You are aware of that? Only from 600 BC the history of India was documented. Before that everything was written in Puranas. But the Western historians, they don't accept it. Whereas in Europe, they don't have any proofs for any history or anything. But there, even if a small story was there, a small legend was there, they would say, no, this has happened. So it's just, the hypocrisy of, the British during that time to corrupt the Indian minds. They wanted the Indians to think themselves of low quality. So that's why they did that. So we want people to know what is the truth. So the Puranas mention the history of India. These are all there. You might ask, all these great kingdoms you are mentioning, all these great forts, where are they? During World War II, there are so many ships that are lost in the ocean just within 50 years. Where are they? The people are not able to find them. There are, archaeologists who are trying to get to those ships, but they couldn't find them. And nobody is making an effort to find to trace our history back. So there is no reason to find them, right? And it happened millions of years ago. Ramayana happened millions of years ago. We will detail it later. So, when the lineage of Ikshvakus was mentioned, then Janaka told, with your permission, I too would like to describe the great lineage of our kings also, the Midhila, the Vaidehas. So then he started to tell, there once was a king named Nimi. Nimi got a boon that he will reside in the eyelids of the people and protect them from any calamity. That's why we are called Naimishayas, because we blink our eyes. So Nimi had that boon. Nimi had a son called Midhi. Midhi had Janaka. This Janaka is not father of Sita. This is another Janaka, Janaka 1. So Nimi, Midhi, Janaka, Nandivardhana, Suketu, Devarata, Drishtaketu, Brihadrata, Shura, Mahavira, Kirtirata, Haryaswa, Maru, Pratindaka, again Kirtirata, Maharoma, Swarnaroma, Raswaroma, Janaka and Kushadhvaja. This is our lineage. So So this Devarata was the king I was talking about, to whom the bow was given. Janaka, Nimi, Midi, Janaka, Udavasu, Nandivardhana, Suketu, Devarata, the sixth from the first. So he was given this great bow, and he was protecting that bow, and it has been passed on since ages to Janaka. So this is our lineage. And then when all the alliances were fixed, Janaka told to Dasaratha that you please perform the Nandi Shraddha and Godhana rituals before the marriage. Nandi Shraddha is, what you offer to your ancestors. It is a culture in our Indian tradition that before any good thing, good ceremony, we offer something, to our forefathers, to our ancestors, because we believe that, even the bodily relation is eternal. It's not temporary. If one person in a family becomes a devotee, 7 generations of the past and 7 generations of the future will also get liberated. So, Nandi Shraddha was performed, and Godhana, and in Godhana, Dasaratha gave 100,000 cows to Brahmanas, and all those cows were cased with, their horns were cased in gold. They had gold, they were gilded with gold horns, and then they also gave bell metal pots to milk the cows to the Brahmanas. They gave a cow its calf and a bell metal pot, and the cow's horns were encased in gold. That was the donation of Dasaratha. 100,000 cows he gave away to Brahmanas. And Samavartana and Snataka rituals were also performed. Samavartana is, giving food to the Brahmanas, the poor Brahmanas, Snataka Brahmanas. So they gave, Dasaratha performed all these things, and they were ready. And on the other hand, in the marriage ritual hall, which is, it's like a thatched roof shed. They did not do it in the palace. They did not do it in the house. They did it outside with a thatched roof, where they were doing the sacrifice. In the thatched shed itself, they built an altar of fire, and Janaka prepared that altar of fire. On that, they made all the 4 brides and bridegrooms, stand, and then they performed the marriage there on that hall. And how beautiful and how qualified Ramachandra was. A marriage means, this is a marriage where the priest Vishwamitra, they say that when you are going and fixing a marriage, 8 people should go. 7, people, of which one is a doctor, one is an astrologer, one is a Sekuna Shastra expert. Like, based on the science, he will describe, what the things are. Like that there are 7 people, 7 experts. And there is one lady, of course, 7 men and 1 lady has to go in order to fetch a girl. So all these 7 people are expert in 7 things. Why? Because a doctor, just by looking at the person, he should say whether she is healthy or not, right? So that's why a doctor. An astrologer, just by looking at her jataka, he has to be able to qualify her things, whether it matches the boy or not, the boy's astrology or not. And then a Sekuna Shastra expert, this is very interesting. That's because if there is a cat in the house, for example, that means there is a mice too, right? So if there is a cat, there is a mice. If there is mice, that means the house is full of grain. So the house is full of grain, that means we are prosperous. So by looking at a cat, he can just judge. But nowadays, it's difficult. Right? I'm talking about the old days. They were experts, not, So that's why 7 people, and with a woman has to go there. But Vishwamitra is equal to all these 8 people. He knows everything. He's a Brahmarshi. He's qualified. He's, and he's a well-wisher too. He doesn't have any selfish motives. So he's a well-wisher. So he went and he knows everything. So he knows that Sita was the most qualified lady on earth, and the most qualified man on earth is Ramachandra. So she has to be given to him. So he fetched Rama and Lakshmana and he went to Mithila. So these are all the things that they say in Ramayana. And what is the qualification of Ramachandra? How beautiful he is. Ramayana, when described by Narada as Sankshepa Ramayana to Valmiki in 100 slokas, in that 10 slokas he spent only describing the qualities of Ramachandra. Even when Valmiki asked the questions about that person, about whom I should write an epic, even those questions were qualities of Ramachandra. We'll start from the beginning so that you'll all know about it. And it's good to hear, Ramayana, a verse from Ramayana. He says, Kaunasmin sampradam loke gunavan kahcha viryavan dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha charitrena chako yukta sarvabhuteshu kohitaha vidwankaha kaha samardhancha kasya eka priyadarshanaha atmavan ko jitakrodo dutiman kasya anasuyakaha kasya vibhyati devancha jataroshasya samyuge. These are the questions of Valmiki. Who is that person who has all these qualities? Sarvabhuteshu kohitaha. Who is the benign well-wisher of all living entities? This was one quality of Ramachandra. And he also asks, then Narada replied, Ikshvaku Vamsa Prabhavo Ramo Ramajanai Sutaha Niyatatma Mahaviryo Dutiman Vashi Buddhiman Nitiman Vangmi Shriman Shatru Nibarhanaha Vipulamsho Mahabahu Kambugriva Mahahanuhu Mahavrasko Mahishwaso Gudajatru Arindamaha Ajanubahu Sushiraha Sularatasu Vikramaha Sama Vibhaktanga Snindhavarna Pratapavan Pinavaksa Vishalaksho Lakshmivan Subhalakshanaha धर्मज्ञः सत्यसन्धश्च प्रजानां च हिते रतः यशस्वी ज्ञानसम्पन्नः शुचिव्यश्च समाधिमान् प्रजापतिः समः श्रीमान् धातरिपुनिसूदनः रक्षिता जीवलोकस्य धर्मस्य च परिरक्षिता रक्षिता स्वस्य धर्मस्य स्वजनस्य च रक्षिता वेदवेदाङ्गतत्त्वज्ञो धनुर्वेदं च निष्ठितः. So in his 100 slokas of Ramayana, 10 slokas he dedicated just to describe the qualities of Ramachandra. This is the greatness of Ramachandra. And then, let us see what other people have said about Ramachandra. The Ayodhya-vasis, when they were questioned by Dasaratha, why do you think that my son has to be the king? They said, Sahirupo upapannascha viryavan anasuyakaha bhumau anupamaha sunuhu gunair dasaradopamaha sachanityam prashantatma mridupurvam tu bhashate uchyanopi parusham nauttaram pratipadyate. This verse might help you. Sachanityam prashantatma mridupurvantu bhashate. He is always peaceful. Mridupurvantu bhashate. He talks very pleasingly. Uchyanopi parusham. If somebody talks to him harshly, nauttaram pratipadyate. He will never respond to them. Kadanchid upakarena krite nekena tushyati nasmaratyapakaranam shatamapi atmavartayaha. Kadanchid upakarena. If you do one little favor to Ramachandra, he will remember it always. Nasmaratyapakaranam. He will never remember any bad thing that you have done to me. Let them be Shatamapi, let them be in hundreds, he will not remember them. Shatamapi Atmavattayaha. This fourth thing I like very much. They say, Shila Vruddaihi, Vayo Vruddaihi, Jnana Vruddhascha Sajjanaihi, Katayannasta Vainityam, Astra Yoga Antareshwapi. That means one who is knowledgeable, one who is aged by knowledge, one who is aged by, by natural age, and one who is aged by Jnana, one who is aged by his meritorious qualities. Rama used to always converse with such personalities. He always used to spend time with elders. Whenever he gets an interval while practicing Astra Yoga, while practicing archery. If he gets an interval, he will go and spend time with the elders. This is another quality. Buddhiman Madhuravashi Purvavashi Priyambadaha Viryavan Chaviryena Mahadasvena Vismitaha. He is the first speaker, Purvabhashi Priyambadaha. He speaks first. You don't have to, initiate the talk. He talks first. He is the icebreaker, He talks first and he talks pleasingly, smilingly. Smita Purvantu Bhashite. Shasankaiva Nirmalaha. He is as pleasant as the moon. And not only that, he has several more qualities. Nachan Vitakato Vidwan, Buddhanam Pratipujakaha, Prajaschapi Anurujyate. Anurujya Prajabhishta, Prajaschapi Anurujyate. And not only that, Samyak Vidya Vatasnato Yathavat Sangha Vedavid Ishvastreta Pitusreshto Babhuva Bharatagrajaha. Like that, he has innumerable qualities, innumerable to list. That is the greatness of Ramachandra. This is what the Ayodhya people said. Forget about the Ayodhya people. Let us see what his enemies have told about Ramachandra. Mandara also praised. Rama is such a great person. Who will look after you, Kaikeyi? Who will look after Bharata? Like that she said. She did not first say bad about Rama. First he talked about the good qualities of Rama and she said, for this reason nobody will care for you. And let us see what Vali has said. What Surpanaka has said. When Surpanaka saw Rama, she said, Taruno Rupa Sampanno Sukumaro Mahabalao Padmapatra Visalaksho Chira Krishna Jinambara Dharinavu. Taruno Rupa Sampanno. They are young, they are very beautiful. Rupa Sampanno, Sukumaro Mahabalao. They are very soft, like they are looking like children. when she saw them. She was complaining to Kara and Dushana that Rama and Lakshmana hurt me by cutting my nose, but she was talking about the glories of Rama. Tarano, Rupa Sampanno, Sukumaro, Mahabalo, Padmapatra Visalaksho, Krishna Jinambara Darino, Faramurasano, Dantau, Tapaso Samstitavratau, Putrau, Dasanadasyastau, Brataro, Ramalakshmanau. So beautifully she mentioned. Let us see what Vali said when he was hit by the Rama's arrow. He did not curse Rama, you did this, you did that. He said, Kulinaha, Sattasampannaha, Tetesvi Charitavrataha, Ramaha Karunavedi, Prajanam cha Hiterataha. Like this I have heard people are talking about you. Like he glorified, Kulinaha, Sattasampannaha. And this is one quality that the boy requires at the time of marriage. Kulinaha, he has to have good dynasty. And also health. About health also they mentioned one thing. Arogas Tarno Vammi Vapushman Desakalavid Loke Purushasaragnya Sadhureko Vinirmitaha. Rama was young and he did not have any disease. He was strong and he was vigorous. So that was one more quality. So Rama had these innumerable qualities. Out of all the things I liked what Mandodari said. When her husband was killed, that woman, in her anguish, she did not shout at Ramachandra. She said, Vyaktamesha Mahayogi Paramatma. She said, Vyaktamesha Mahayogi Paramatma. She also addressed him as Srivatsavaksha Nityasri Rajayaha. Srivatsavaksha. She saw Vishnu, Lokeshwara Sriman. All these epithets she used to describe Ramachandra. That is the greatness of Rama. Even enemies were mesmerized by his charm. This is the glory of Ramachandra. And how is Sita? I don't have so many, I have only one verse to conclude the beauty of Sita. They say, Hanuman saw Sita and he said, Rajyam Trishu Lokeshu, Sita va Janakatmaje. The entire 3 words put together would not equate to the 16th part of Sita. This is what Hanuman has said. And that includes Rama also in those 3 words. So Rama, including all the 3 words, are not equal to the 16th part of Sita's glory. So that is the beauty of Sita. That sums up all. So such is the beauty of Sita and the glory of Sita. So they should, they were brought together in Sita Rama Kalyana. And Hanuman, when he saw Sita, he thinks, this nobody, you might not know, that's why I'm mentioning this. Hanuman also complained about Ramachandra. One might think Hanuman never complained about Rama. Here is the complaint of Hanuman. He says, Dushkaram Kritavan Ramo, Hino Yadanaya Prabhu, Dharayityatmano Deham, Nasokena Avasidati. When he saw Sita, he thought, Rama has done an impossible task. How is he able to survive the separation from Sita? Muhurtamapi Jivati, Nasokena Avasidati. How is he able to live after leaving, this Sita, whom I am seeing right now? He must be a stone-hearted person. So Hanuman also complained that Dushkaram Kritavan Ramo, he has done an impossible task. Hino Yadanaya Prabhu, Dharayityatmano Deham. After losing Sita, he is still, beholding this body. How is he able to live? This was the complaint of Hanuman. So such is the beauty of Sita, such is the glorious nature of Sita. And he also said, Asya Devya Manahtasmin Tasya Cha Asya Pratishtitam Tena Iyam Cha Dharmatma Muhurtamapi Jivati. His heart is with her and her heart is within him. That's why they both are able to live. Like Rama's heart is in Sita and Sita's heart is in Rama. That's why they throbbed for each other and that's why they are still living even after being separated. This is the glory of Sita and Rama's marriage. So Hanuman described this, and when they were brought onto the altar of fire, and then Vasishtha he ignited the fire by Aranimandana. Aranimandana is, you put a stick on top of a churning device and then you churn it and then there comes fire. That is called, the topmost stick that you put, it's called Uttararani. The bottom portion is called Adhararani. And for any Vedic ritual, they don't light a matchstick and then, light the yajna. They do the Aranimandana and then out of that, whatever fire comes, they light the sacrificial fire. So, and then he lit the fire and Janaka also came there. And along with his daughters, he told to Rama that Iyam Sita Mamasuta Sahadharma Charitava Praticha Chainam Badrante Panim Grihnishwa Panina. This is the verse that even nowadays in every marriage that they recite. Iyam Sita, this Sita, my daughter, Mama Suta, Iyam Sita, Mama Suta, Sahadharma Charitava, Pratitya Chainam Badrante, Panim Grihnishwa Panina. Pativrata Mahabhaga, Chayeva Anugata Sada, Iti Uttva Raja, Prakshipat Raja, Mantraputam Jalam Tatha. He said, she will follow you like a shadow, my dear Rama, take her. An English poet says, here is Sita, my daughter, take thy hand, thy duties to share, take her from thy father, join hand to hand and let bliss betide. So says an English poet, about Sita and Rama's marriage. So Janaka said the same thing, and later he told Lakshmana, please take the hand of Urmila. And he said the same thing to Bharata and Shatrughna, and all the 4 brides and bridegrooms, they got married, and then they did the circumambulation around that sacrificial fire for 3 times. And they wore all the bridal jewelry and everything. We should stop here and continue Sita Rama Kalyanam next week also from this point, and we'll see how Rama humbles Parshurama next week. And we'll conclude our Balakanda in our next week. Any questions?